I feel like I was a man. I don't let nobody else dictate how I feel about myself.
Hey!
If you allow that, then you're living for the wrong reasons. What does that mean? Does he have that right?
Did Jimmy Haslam characterize that correctly, that you kind of figured out everything that it takes to be a pro in this league and really put your heart into it?
Well, no, I don't really know everything at all. Like, I'm open to learning every day on just different things just in life. I learned how to cut my beard the other day. I try to learn something new every day because I'm not one that just thinks my way is the best way.
Shedeur Sanders just called out Kevin Stefanski and the Browns media without ever needing to say their names directly. And that is exactly why this moment hit so hard. Because this was not some emotional rant. This was not some rookie getting mad and saying too much. This was calm, sharp, and honestly way more revealing than people want to admit. He sat there after veteran minicamp, answered questions, smiled through some of the weird energy, and still made it crystal clear that something feels different now. And let's be honest, that is why this is blowing up. Because when Shedeur started talking about how the new staff embraces him as a person, pushes him every day, communicates in different ways, and actually connects with him on a human level, that did not sound like empty coach praise. That sounded like contrast. That sounded like comparison. That sounded like a quarterback who lived through one environment, stepped into another, and immediately recognized the difference.
The thing we missing is y'all. We need y'all to have a new vibe, new energy. I know y'all want us to win, so we need some winning energy here. You know what I'm saying? We can't have too much negativity going on, and you want our players to be the best version of ourselves.
Here's the part nobody is talking about. When Shedeur said, "You could say somebody don't know how to learn, but how did the person get all the way to this level if he don't know how to learn?" That was not just a random life quote. That was a direct challenge to how people around him have been judged and labeled. That was him pushing back against the whole idea that a player struggling in his system automatically means the player is the problem. And then he took it one step further and dropped the line that really put this whole thing on fire. Does he not know how to learn, or do I not know how to communicate with him? That right there is not subtle. That is a shot. That is Shedeur saying maybe the issue was never that the player could not get it. Maybe the issue was the people teaching it. And that is where Kevin Stefanski enters the conversation, whether people like it or not, because once Shedeur starts talking like that, once he starts praising the new coaching staff for how embracing they are and how well they communicate, the natural question is obvious. What was he not getting before? What was missing before? Why did this need to be said at all if everything had been working the way it should? You do not randomly celebrate human connection and communication this hard, unless you felt the lack of it before. That is just real. People can dress it up however they want, but that is what he was saying.
Can't let nobody dictate how I could feel about myself. And if I allow that, then I'm not mentally strong. I gotta be able to be mentally strong in each and every situation that life throws at you.
This is where it gets dangerous, because when a young quarterback starts publicly signaling that the old coaching style was not reaching him the right way, it changes how people look back at everything. Now, old struggles get reevaluated, old criticisms get reopened, old narratives start looking shaky. Because if the player was not being put in the best environment to learn, then all those takes about him not being ready, not being mature enough, not processing fast enough suddenly are not as clean as they used to sound. Now the question becomes whether the Browns and the media were too quick to pin everything on Shedeur instead of asking whether the system around him was doing him any favors. And speaking of the media, that is the other reason this whole moment hit. Shedeur did not just stop at the coaching talk. He turned and basically challenged the entire Browns media culture too. He straight up said the team needs new energy and that the media needs to come with a better attitude too. He said if y'all want us to win, then bring winning energy. That is not normal athlete speak. Most guys just give the safe, polished answer and move on. Shedeur did not do that. He looked them in the face and told them some of the negativity around the team is a problem. That is bold. That is risky. But honestly, it's also refreshing because you can tell he believes it.
Yeah, Coach Monken great. Coach Monken great, and all the other coaches on the staff is extremely great. You're gonna understand they embrace you just as a person. Then they push you each and every day. In the meeting room and on the field, in the weight room. Like, it's a new vibe, it's a new energy.
Now, some people are going to hear that and say, hold on, you can't blame the media, you have to perform. And sure, obviously performance matters most. Nobody is saying nice headlines win football games, but that is not even his point. His point is that energy matters, environment matters, the way people are covered, talked about, framed, and discussed inside a city matters, especially for young players still finding their footing. And if you listen to how he talked about it, he was not saying everybody has to worship him. He was saying if the city and the media want the best version of this team, then stop feeding everything through negativity all the time. This is where young players usually make a mistake. They either try too hard to please the media or they go full war mode and treat every question like an attack. Shedeur did something more interesting. He stayed relaxed, stayed thoughtful, and still pushed back. He did not duck the tension, he did not fold, he did not throw a tantrum. He just calmly told them, basically, that if the energy around the team keeps coming from a negative place, that affects more than people realize. And honestly, he is not wrong. Every building has a tone. Every season has a mood. Every team absorbs some of the noise around it, whether they admit it or not.
What you mean by that? We competing against ourselves. Because life is a long time. You get what I'm saying? Our time is dangerous. It's on God's time. You know, we just come in and every day put our deposits in and what we're supposed to do and build towards our craft, but it's not our time. If we thought we had control of anything, then we'll be fools.
Another thing that really stood out was how often Shedeur kept circling back to gratitude, perspective, and learning. That matters because it shows this was not just bitterness talking. This was not him sitting there mad at last year and trying to get revenge through a press conference. He kept saying he is thankful. Thankful for how everything happened, thankful for the growth, thankful for the perspective, thankful for the family around him, thankful for the chance to learn from Deshaun, Dylan, the coaches, everybody. That is important because it tells you his headspace is not stuck in resentment. He is trying to move forward, but moving forward doesn't mean pretending the past didn't teach him something. And one of the biggest things he clearly learned is that relationships matter to him. He said it himself, he is relationship-based. That's huge, because once a player tells you that, it gives you the key to understanding how he responds best. Some players can thrive in cold, hard, distant coaching. Some players need constant challenge. Some players need bluntness. Some players need connection first and then the hard truth. Shedeur is clearly telling us he is the kind of guy who gives you the best version of himself when he feels the relationship is real. That's not weakness. That is self-awareness. And the way he described the current staff, it sounds like they understand that. Here's the part nobody is talking about. Self-awareness at quarterback is way more valuable than people think. Everybody wants to talk about arm talent, mobility, and processing speed. Fine. But if a quarterback knows how he learns, knows what kind of communication gets the best out of him, knows how to recalibrate his mindset, and knows how to protect his mental space from negativity, that matters too. That is grown man stuff. That's the kind of internal work that often separates the guys who break from the guys who bounce back. And Shedeur sounded like somebody who spent the offseason really digging into that part of himself. When he said he spent a lot of time in Cleveland, stayed local, worked on himself, self-reflected, and wanted to take things to the next level, that told you the whole vibe. He was not out there trying to create some fake quarterback redemption movie. He was building something quieter and deeper. He was trying to reset how he thinks, how he lives, how he approaches his days, and how he defines success. He even talked about putting a margin of success on himself, not based on what others think. That is maturity. That is how you survive being the most talked about guy in the room. Because if you let everybody else define your progress for you, you lose your mind fast.